Origin lawyer Kash Patel, who is likely to lead Trump's FBI team, says US immigration policy will be the world's greatest. This is the reaction coming in from Indian origin lawyer Kash Patel, who is likely to lead Trump's FBI team.
And our immigration policy is the greatest policy in the world. And now that we have Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance, it will become the greatest policy in the world again. But dreams and hopes aren't enough, my friends. We got to get to work. In the last calendar year alone, we had 100,000 drug overdoses. In the last calendar year alone, we had over 100,000 rapes. In the last calendar year alone, we had 17,000 homicides. That is unacceptable in 2025 in the United States of America. We are not prioritized to go after the threats that face this country, and most of all, that face our future generations. But thank God, we will be starting right now. I am standing here because of the American dream. I am not standing here because of the color of my skin. I'm standing here because I earned my right on this stage.
Sanjay, we are back again to the question of immigration. Remember, Trump has always made it very clear, and he has repeated his stance again and again, saying that illegal migrants are criminals. And also in one of the executive orders that he has signed is about the deportation drive. What do you have to say about that?
Well, clearly, this is the FBI now under Kash Patel will be tasked with dealing with crime. Of course, it will deal with crime wherever it comes from, but to the extent that crime is seen to arise from immigration, that appears to be the priority of this administration, and Kash Patel will be the one to act on that. It's the FBI under him that will seem to be preparing now to prioritize investigations and prosecutions in cases of crime that involve migrants, because then you're going to do two things at once in one stroke. You're going to tackle crime, yes, of course, crime has to be tackled, but you're also going to be tackling migration and migrants who are unwanted. And there is again going to be some cause for concern here. A good deal of crime, no doubt, has this overlap between migration and the crime itself. But there's a good deal of crime that doesn't. And if the FBI were to prioritize investigations into criminal cases that involve primarily migrants, there could be a scenario where the attempt to contain crime gets a bit lopsided. It gets sort of emphasized in one area to the expense potentially of tackling crime more generally. So this overlap of immigrants and illegal immigrants and the crackdown on crime works to an extent. It will not work all the way, and we'll have to see whether this becomes disproportionately emphasized to the exclusion of dealing with other kinds of crime.
Also, Sanjay, earlier the point that you were making about the war, let's also talk about the Israel-Gaza war. We are learning that the long-awaited Gaza ceasefire came into effect yesterday, and 90 Palestinian prisoners and 3 hostages were released, and Trump has taken time and again credit for that. What do you have to say about that?
Well, Trump has taken credit, and of course it's possible that his threat that there will be hell to pay if something doesn't move before he becomes president would have prevailed upon Hamas to release these people and for this process to be hastened. But the fact is that the Biden administration had been working on this for several months, and for a long time it had appeared that the talks are very close to a breakthrough point, that a solution is at hand. It did prove evasive. It did come in the very last days of the Biden administration. Of course, Biden has taken credit for it, that it was the result of all the efforts of the Biden administration. Trump says it was his warning and his threat that really proved the tipping point and led to the beginning. But of course, let's not forget, this is only a very small beginning. We're talking about 3 hostages released, and there's very many more. And beyond the question of release of hostages or trading hostages for prisoners is the question of Gaza itself and Hamas itself. That solution is still awaited. There is a very tense situation there. Hamas exists. It has not been dismantled. It's very much in charge in Gaza Strip. So Hamas has not been eliminated as Israel said it will be. The Palestinian solution is evasive. The two-state solution that the US government has said it supports, that just about everyone says they support, but nobody acts on. That solution is awaited. So that problem has been sort of only touched at the periphery. It's not been resolved. There's a very serious crisis now in the Middle East that is continuing, and there's no sign that this early move is necessarily going to find a solution that will bring any sort of lasting peace or even a longish ceasefire.
Right, Sanjay. Let's dip into CNN for a minute. We'll keep coming back to you.
Some way, as well as outside agitators, which, again, is just not the case.
It's not the case, and it's likely a good thing that his Attorney General nominee, Pam Bondi, has already had her confirmation hearing, because this certainly would come up in that. And this is something that the Justice Department will have to deal with it. But look, this is we got an incredible look at his first look at the Oval Office once again. He said he was so happy to be back. It's one of the most beautiful places. And then in an also extraordinary moment, in a series of them, he opened the drawer of the Resolute desk and pulled out the note from President Biden and sort of joked, should I read this aloud? It said 47 on it. Of course, he is the 47th president. But Anderson, just a litany of executive orders, executive actions. But on immigration, those also are very serious. He again has been talking about that all day long and throughout the campaign, largely picking up where he left off and declaring a national emergency, declaring the cartels a terrorist organization, leaving the door open to special forces going into Mexico. So on a variety of fronts, making good on what he's been talking about he would do on day one. And now, of course, the levers of government will have to react to all of this. But clearly, he's very happy to be back in the Oval Office, and so much different than 8 years ago when he walked in for the first time. Now he knows exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah, Jeff Zeleny, appreciate it. For more on how those January 6 pardons could play out, I want to go to CNN's chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed, and I think we're going to show you a live picture at some point outside the detention center, where, if you've been watching our reporting over the months, as Donnie O'Sullivan has repeatedly reported, there have been vigils pretty much every night by relatives and friends of people who were convicted of crimes on January 6th at the Capitol and have been serving time. They have been gathering every night, and obviously there's a celebratory mood, as you can see. Paula, how immediate is the effect of these pardons? Will people be released tonight? Will Enrique Tarrio be released? Stuart Rhodes?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they're in the process of being released, so that is possible because the pardons and the commutations, their impact is immediate. Now, if you didn't get a pardon or a commutation, if your case is still pending, those cases are going to be dismissed. Now, I'd expect that would likely happen tomorrow because today is, of course, a federal holiday. Yesterday, I was speaking with one of Trump's legal advisors, and I asked, well, why are you dismissing the cases? Why not just give them pardons too? And the advisor suggested, well, that giving them a pardon suggests that they are somehow guilty. So we would prefer to dismiss these cases. But it's interesting, I will note that those commutations, the folks whose sentence were reduced or eliminated, instead of getting a full pardon, those are just going to be